Hello, good evening, everyone. Happy Tuesday. We are live tonight for another evening of Heartbreak Chronicles. I am going to wait a little bit to see if we can get some people to join on. I know some people commented they were going to join on tonight, so I like to move fast, but I am going to slow down and be patient and see who jumps on tonight. Hope everybody is having a great Tuesday and winding down from the day. Good evening, Wayne. How are you? Hope you're having a great day. I don't know if folks had to go into work or if everyone's working from home, staying safe and secure. I did a lot of working from home today. I am tired, but energized for tonight. Hi, Margaret. Good to see you. Again, waiting a little bit for some folks to join on. If this is your first time joining, first of all, welcome. Don't forget to share as you're coming on, and be sure you're following my page so you can get the updates for when I am going live and to get all the announcements. Please feel free to share as you're jumping on for tonight. Hello, Keith. How are you this evening? I said today, one of the things we've been doing more of, I must say, since we've been working from home, is we're able to sit down and have more family dinners. I don't know if you guys are starting some new traditions or getting things back in line since you are at home, for those who are able to stay. But yeah, so we've been being more creative and actually getting some more family time, which has been nice during this social distancing time from the world, but trying to make the best of it as we're somewhat stuck. But again, as you guys are coming on, please share before we get started. And we will get started here in about a minute or two. Welcome, Thomas. Thanks for joining us. I said there's been a lot of talk, I know, going on too, with us being stuck in the house, about making sure we're interacting and talking to folks. So hopefully this will give you guys some more of that contact, a little positive energy for the day as well. So again, appreciate you coming on tonight, and hopefully we can have a good dialogue about our topic tonight, which hopefully may spur up a little bit of debate. I'll put that disclaimer out already. Hello. Hi, Jasmine. Thanks for joining. How are you? I haven't seen you in a while. Years, I should probably say. So is anybody doing any new fun traditions now that we are in the house? Love to hear some creative things people are doing. To keep the kids occupied, to keep your mind occupied during this time. What time we got? Okay, we're going. It's about 9:04, so I don't want to. You know me. Efficiency and time is of the essence. So I want to get started again. For those who are joining and who will be joining on the replay, first of all, welcome. Thank you for spending a little of your Tuesday evening with me on our Heartbreak Chronicles weekly series. For those who do not know me, I am Andrea L. Cooks to be exact, and I am a certified abundant life coach. And I started this series really with the notion of I wanted to start conversation about things, real talk, regarding things that go on in relationship, go on with heartbreak, that a lot of us experience, but we don't talk about it. And then we suffer in silence. We don't get the closure and the healing that we need, and we just keep doing the same thing over and over again. I have done that many times, as most people know who know a little bit of my story. I've been divorced twice, but I must say great relationships with my two ex-husbands. And I've had a series of heartbreak throughout my life, but it came a time where enough was enough, and I started doing some things to move past some of the struggles and tragedies that I had in order to get the life that I desired, and realized that that was my responsibility to take on that action. And again, and my goal is to hopefully spur that into you, and again, start that dialogue. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight, and you may have noticed in the title of this video, is I put it's okay to love yourself more. And so I know, at least from my background and growing up in the church, one of the things we've been taught a lot is, you treat people like you want to be treated. When you get married as a wife, I'll say a lot was poured into me about, how I serve my husband and the partnership that we have. But because I think to a lot of us, especially that kind of have the people-pleasing syndrome, which I am a victim of, and who just really have a heart for nurturing and serving, I think we forget how much of that love that we actually need to give ourselves. And we start to look for that love, and I'll say in all the wrong places. And I don't mean always in the wrong people, but we're expecting people to fulfill that love when we are supposed to be doing that for ourselves. Hey, Katie, Donna, Michelle, Coco, thanks for joining. We're just getting started. But again, tonight's topic is really this discussion of, is it okay to love yourself more? My personal opinion, I believe it is, but I definitely want to get you guys' thoughts and opinions about it. I was actually talking to my sister earlier this evening regarding the subject, and we had, I won't say different in opinions, but some conversation about it. And this whole concept that I don't think we put ourselves first a lot. And in relationships, one of the things I was thinking about was probably after every bad breakup that I had, when you're in the anger phase or stage of this process, the first thing I kept thinking is, you know what? I did X, Y, and Z. I gave him everything that I had. I gave him, supported all of his dreams. How could he do this to me? And I know I've shared that in the past. But when I started to think about that a little bit more, I really started to kind of dissect all of those things that I was coming up with. How could he do this to me because of X, Y, and Z that I've done? And again, if people know, or maybe you don't know, from my previous relationship, I started a business with my ex-husband. So I worked full-time, supported the dream of creating a company while he did that. So a lot of money, blood, sweat, and tears went behind that. So it was a lot of things that I felt like I was doing to support his dream. So again, one of the things that really bothered me initially when the marriage came to an end was, I did all this. How could someone do this to somebody after you've done all that? And then I started to think about how, in all reality, I was placing a lot of that pain because of what I did. And I thought, well, why did I do that? Why wasn't I doing things to make me happy? Why wasn't I doing things or putting boundaries up in those situations? Because really, that's what was pissing me off. Let's just be honest. You do all this stuff, and in your back in your mind, half the time you're thinking, is this really what I want to do? Is this, the best thing? But you do it, right? Because you love them so much. And so my thought is, well, did I not love myself enough to say, you know what, is this risky for me? Should I put the stops on it? And so I guess those are the questions that, yes, Katie, absolutely, that I wanted to bring up tonight. Is this something that folks can relate to? That you end up doing a lot for people because you love them, love. But are we not then taking the time to think about, too, what's good for us? Are we not loving ourselves enough to put up, to kind of ask those questions and to put up boundaries to protect ourselves? And one of the things, again, I was talking about with my sister earlier was, do we actually do that if we're asking for love for ourselves, but we're not giving it to ourselves, we're not putting up those boundaries? That question of, at that point, I'm not loving myself. I'm valuing the love that I'm trying to attain from another person. Is that making sense to anybody? Or am I alone in this? Which I could be. But really thinking about that balance I'm having. And I think one of the tendencies I have and many have who are people pleasers, again, I think from our heart we want to please, but what are we trying to get from that? Are we doing things for love? And are those things, again, and I know we talked about this before, that we can do for ourselves? Again, soon as a heartbreak or a breakup happens, when I talk to many people and work with them, those are the things that start to come up. All the things that we are doing, but we did for them, that now they don't seem to appreciate, or it doesn't matter to them. But again, were we doing things to take care of yourself? Nicole, I see you put yes, so I'm assuming that that's something that you can relate to and has happened in some of your past relationships. I would like to I have a few men that have joined your thought process. Again, I've talked to a lot of women who, again, as soon as a breakup hits, we're on the phone and we're talking about all these things we did in this relationship, and now this man has left. Do men have this same struggle? Or I would love to know. Please comment below. I know from some men that I talk to, I've heard that, but again, I would love to get it from the mouth of men and not put it in your mouth. So one of the stories I will share, again, regarding ensuring that we're loving ourselves and not other people. And I won't say that we shouldn't love other people, but not putting other people's love or value before our own, really has to do with becoming your true self and not putting limits on yourselves. So one of the other things that I am guilty of is, again, when you're in a relationship, I think I've been careful about if something that I do bothers someone, I think we all try to be cognizant of not doing those things to then aggravate our partner. You should be. Being considerate is a great thing. However, I think there is a limit to that. And one of the things that was very big for me, and as you can see now, people who know me, I am a smiler. And so when I see people, I smile. When I'm happy, I smile. It's just part of who I am. Thanks, Wayne. I hope this is a good topic and folks are getting something out of it. But with that, when I was with one of my spouses, one of the things that bothered him was that I smiled too much. Now, at this point, let me just say, now that I've surpassed, how crazy is that? We're going to move on. But I smiled too much. So I spent a lot of time being real careful, like when I was in different areas. Am I smiling too much? Am I being to this or to that? Again, trying to make that person happy, trying to make sure I wasn't doing anything wrong. And that was really changing who I was authentically. Again, not understanding my value, not understanding and loving myself more than someone else. And again, as a person who has been married and believes completely and wholeheartedly in the sanctity of marriage, I know there's compromises and things you need to do. But again, that whole idea that you are changing who you are doing things you don't want to do for another person and putting yourself and your values at bay for someone else. Again, another example of how I was not dealing with that appropriately. Donna put, I think we're guilty of not healing ourselves before opening new relationships. Absolutely. I was reading, I think it was a meme on social media the other day, and it talked about how much damage we're doing to folks because we don't take this time, time in isolation to heal ourselves, understand what we're doing, and we're out here dating everybody under the sun, and taking that baggage with us. And I think that's very key. That happened with me. I would say in my first and in my first divorce. I got divorced. I was, lonely and, ready to move on way too quickly. And then I got into another marriage. Should have thought about that. So I definitely think we're not doing some of that, internal work to make sure that we're not taking that baggage into different situations. Yes, Lee, the smile, that was too much. That was definitely too much. Wayne put, clarification, is love more generality? Can I speak tonight? Or do you mean love yourself more than your partner? I'm specifically thinking about your partner, and I think, but in our reality, it can happen in various relationships, in my opinion, out there. But I think in the construct of the man-woman relationship, or in your relationship with your partner, we've been conditioned a lot to be sure we're putting other people before us. We're making sure other people's needs are met, which, again, I think that is important. But I think about it just like when you're flying a plane and they tell you, before, if something was happening with the plane, you put the mask on yourself first, and so you can help people or help your child or whatnot. I think the same concept applies in a relationship. But because, again, I think we are, and again, I will say are constantly trying to make sure that our person is happy and doing different things, that we forget to love ourselves more and take care of ourselves so that we're able to give the appropriate love that we need to. Thank you. I will keep smiling. Absolutely. So that's my concept, and really to challenge you. And I'm not saying, and for you have to work this out for yourself. But again, one of the conversations that I was having early when I thought about, do you love yourself more or do you love yourself first? And again, I think same concept applies, just a play on words, that if we're not loving ourselves wholeheartedly, if we're not being honest with ourselves of what we want to do and not do, then again, is that putting the value of someone else over our own? And if we're expecting someone to love us, how can we expect that if we're not actually loving ourselves the appropriate way? Because again, what they say, you teach people how to love you. And so when you see someone that you're constantly meeting their needs and not doing yours, then they think that's how you want to be loved. So I think we have to be intentional about understanding that, and again, doing our own work. Nicole puts, absolutely, you can't be there for anyone if you're not whole for yourself. Absolutely. I mean, how are you going to be able to take care of someone if you're running on zero steam? It just doesn't work out. And then you get the animosity, then you get some of the anger. And again, I think about kind of the path that I had within my relationships. And because I did so much, it really pissed me off when stuff didn't work out. And again, I had to turn that back on myself and say, well, why did you do that, Andrea? Why didn't you stand up for yourself, Andrea? And I know those are things that are hard and things that I had to learn. But again, I was trying to get that love from them and making sure I was treating them right, and then forgetting to do the same for myself. Lee writes, so are you saying the 80-20 rule applies to love? Give yourself 80% and your significant other 20? No, I'm saying that in order to give 100% to someone else, in order to give yourself love, you have to give yourself the 100% and not expect someone to necessarily fill your cup is my problem. As I think that a lot of times we're wanting someone else to fulfill us when we need to be fulfilled within ourselves, and what they give to you is an addition. That way, you know you're responsibility for taking care of. You're responsible for taking care of yourself. Good question. But again, my belief. I do believe in a relationship that percentage of who's doing what and how we do things, that rule changes, the percentage changed constantly. And if you don't believe that, I think that's trouble. But I'll let some of the married folks talk about that as well. What else you guys got for me? Questions on your belief of loving yourself first, or it's okay to love yourself more than your partner. And like I said, I totally believe in loving, caring, serving, all those things to your partner. But again, if you're doing all of that and not doing it for yourself, you will be angry. It's a human nature. Hi, Quincy. Welcome. Thank you for joining. We are talking about the topic, is it okay to love yourself more in a relationship? And again, I was sharing stories on when we give more than we have, and how when then things either fall apart or when there's trouble, that's where a lot of our anger and frustration comes to, because we're giving so much of ourselves, and again, not filling our own cup up and expecting others to do it for us. Anything else from the group? So we're getting some more folks to join. I promise next time maybe to have some popcorn. I think one of the folks said they popped on and went to get popcorn, and I was done. But you know, I like to be efficient, people. But I'll bring popcorn and throw it up. Bill Rice, loving yourself is a responsibility you must do. It allows you to speak up with your need without, let me see if I can see more, without anger. Exactly. And I think, again, as a person who, for me, I know I'm not a conflict person. Like, I hated conflict. Like, oh, I don't want to say anything. And so then you're doing, and knowing in the pit, like, you know what, some of this is bothering me. I'm not saying anything, but I'm doing because I'm trying to show love. I'm trying to do this, and again, ignoring what your true feelings are. And when you're ignoring your true feelings, again, are you misplacing that value on yourself? Lee puts, I believe in knowing myself and what I expect from my partner, but I think to be in a relationship, especially at my age and being set in my ways, I have to love the person more than myself. I can respect that, Lee, but I also think, again, loving yourself is very important, because again, if someone then does not fill your cup, how will that impact you? But I totally understand that perspective, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate the male perspective. Michelle writes, I believe some folks, including myself, started to lose myself and give all to my kids, not necessarily given to my spouse. Totally agree with that, Michelle, and I think that's a part of the big kit and caboodle. And I know when Wayne was asking earlier, is this just for partners or for other relationships? And again, I think that it happens in the entire family dynamic, or with friendships or whatnot, that whole idea that we begin to do more for others, be it our kids, our spouse, our friends, and we lose ourselves in the process. And with that, again, we're giving all this love out, and then we're depleted. And who do we say is responsible for that? If we're doing all this and they're out doing their own thing, they're not necessarily bringing it back to you. then at the end of the day, you're the one that's still trying to pick up the pieces. Nicole put, I believe loving yourself in a way that is not seen as self-centered is important. Very good point, Nicole. So I know when I first was thinking about this message, and again, part of my personality, I thought, oh, loving yourself is more, sounds very self-centered, sounds very, how do I put it? It would be something I wouldn't have said in the past. Let me just put it out there. Because I think, no, of course everyone comes first. Or if I say I'm loving myself more, like I said, it just kind of puts that funny pit in your stomach. And to be honest, I believe if it's giving you that pit, it's because you're, again, the type of person who probably gives a lot. And again, when you naturally do that, I think it makes you feel like if I'm loving myself more, I'm being self-centered, or I shouldn't be, you have that guilt of, am I doing something wrong? And again, that's where I feel like that's where we've had the flip-flop, because we think that we are supposed to do all of this and we're getting this love in return. But in our reality, again, we have to be whole. We have to make sure that our needs are met. Yes, we get different needs from other people. We, just like we all need human contact and interaction. But again, that core, that crust that's inside of you, only you really know, once you dig in deep, what that is and what that means to you. So I think, again, in the world, we look at that as self-centered. And I would surely thought that in the past. But in my opinion, from my learning, that's where we end up falling short, because we're not taking care of ourselves the way we need to. Hey, Lynette, good to see you. Quincy put, I think so many people are just learning to love themselves as adults, which become challenging when trying to love a partner. Loving yourself must be taught from childhood. Absolutely. And I think going back to, for me, again, I got married very young. I married my high school sweetheart, and I think that happens often. We start that whole dynamic of, as kids, you're dating or whatnot, and you're not actually knowing who you are, and we may not have had all the proper role models, because again, everybody's learning this. We're continuously growing. And again, I think in the past, at least I will say how I was taught, it was to be more the giver, to be more the nurturer, and that was determined to be, a good wife, or, a good woman, to do those things, and was looked upon to being self-centered when you were trying to figure more about yourself and making sure you're putting up the boundaries. So I totally agree with that, Quincy. Lee also puts, this is definitely an issue when children come into relationships. Yeah, absolutely. Mind you, I don't have any, but your spouse, if in a truly loving relationship, should come before your children. I believe that. I know that is a very controversial subject in the world as well, but I will say, again, my personal belief and what has happened in my marriage, I do believe that your spouse should come first in that situation, because again, it's a different dynamic, and you do have to keep that relationship strong. Again, it goes back to my belief: if your relationship is strong, then you're again being good role models for your children. Or when your relationship isn't working and things have to change, again, having a good relationship. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why even in my divorce situation with my child's father, I am very intentional about having a great relationship with them. So we're not married, but having that connection and her seeing that relationship is still very important to me, even though we're not married. So I definitely agree with those comments. Yes, definitely controversial. And I will say a long time ago, I remember watching on Oprah probably 20 years ago, and there was a woman on there discussing, that whole idea, should the marriage come first before children. I mean, it was a big uproar. And I remember at the time I thought to myself, that's crazy, and I didn't have children, that of course the children come first. But again, when you're in that dynamic and you're trying to, have a relationship with that lifelong partner, yourself, that relationship, those are all things that need to be taken care of in order to have a successful, loving family for your children. And that stability is what's important, again, in my opinion. So, no, thank you so much for raising that. Hey, Rebecca, I see you joined as well. Thanks for joining us. Any other thoughts? I know we have a few folks on here who are married with children. Would love to hear their thoughts on that. Yes, Nicole, it is a very fine balance that could get out of whack quite quickly. I know this. But yeah, it's and again, these are questions that I pose to you, that I think, like I said, that I've struggled with. I think it's a continued struggle. I mean, now that I am in the dating world, you have to figure out, as you're meeting new people, how you balance trying to get to know people, prioritizing your time, and ensuring that you're keeping, being true to yourself, keeping the things that you're doing in perspective, while you're still trying to potentially find love. I know I talked to a lot of folks, women and men, in that position where you are trying to find someone, but you have to remember to keep your eye on the prize, which is still yourself. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate you. I said you just joined, but you put I have a beautiful smile. In the beginning, I talked about how one of my ex-husbands told me that I shouldn't smile as much. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that comment. Hi, Sunshine. We are getting ready to wrap up, but I appreciate all of the comment and interaction tonight. Again, things for you to think about as you're in a relationship, if you're in the midst of a little turmoil in a relationship, but that, our responsibility in the end is to ensure that we are good, that we are whole, and that we take care of ourselves. Yes, being married, we also have a spouse to think about. Yes, if you're a mother or a father, we have our children to think about. But we have to remember that we are important. If we are not feeling good, if we are not loving ourselves, how will people know, how to treat us? How will we be able to help other people? So again, something to ponder. Quincy put, have you found that the position on the topic changes by gender? For instance, the female says her husband is first, but the men put their children first. I think it is varied, and a lot of it, I believe, based on your upbringing. And I think a lot of the times you will get women who, they're taking care of the kids, they put the children first, and then again, they're exhausted at the end, and then they have nothing left for themselves or their spouse. Where I think men have a tendency, and this is generalizing this, of they are trying to put their relationship with their wife first. And so I think that becomes a little bit of a turmoil. Again, I felt that in my previous relationships, and a lot of people that I talk to and coach have those similar comments. Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate you. I was trying to look nice for 9. You guys know at 9 o'clock I'm normally in my PJs, but we won't put that out there. Hi, Jada. Hi, Tiffany. Hi, Crystalline. Thank you for joining tonight. I see we're getting ready to wrap up where I thought we were. But again, the topic tonight was the question of, is it okay to love yourself more, specifically in a relationship or partnership? But I think, again, it crosses various relationships out there. Lee put, Quincy, I think that men put their children first when the foundation of their relationship with their wife is shaky. Good comment, Lee. It's a good comment. I will say, and again, based off of some of my experience, I think that, men are making sure their children are okay, making sure they're protected, but they are trying to have a particular relationship with their wife. Again, if things are going okay, but I do really, if their relationship with their wife is shaky, things, like I said, they're taking care of their kids and they're making sure they're doing what they need to do as a man. So, absolutely love that. Lee put, as a way to give purpose to a fragile situation. Very true. Nicole agrees with Lee as well. And I think, again, when you think about a marriage and when you have kids, those are things that end up happening with, I think, the male and the female. Once you're married, you have kids, things are shaky. You're both then at this point kind of getting through and trying to take care of business. And then at that point, you end up losing sight of yourself and that relationship, and you're moving forward. And you're, again, doing things, maybe putting in so much love into other areas. And at that point, not necessarily pouring it into yourself. So still a good time, in my opinion, even when things are shaky, to work on yourself. Love yourself. Because again, if you're getting, healed, if you're filling things up, then that's not something that you are really expecting and gravitating for your partner, when your partner may be, again, going through things too. And I think that's part of the ups and downs of relationships. Sometimes things are good, sometimes things aren't. But that whole time, as individuals, we need to be working on ourselves and not expecting someone else to be doing that work. So again, that whole idea that you have to love yourself, you have to be taking care of yourselves in order to, again, be able to be a support for your husband or your spouse. Awesome. Well, I must say, I totally appreciate all the dialogue tonight. I will be back next Tuesday with another hot topic. If there, as I mentioned, anything that you guys would like to discuss, things that are on your mind, don't hesitate to reach out, put some in the comments, and I will add that to our list of weekly discussions. And again, this one I will go ahead and post. I don't think I put it up there. I will post my Healing Heartbreak ebook. Again, just a couple of pointers that if you are going through something, especially during this time when we're in isolation, it actually is a good time. Like, you know what? Let's just pull us together and start doing some of the work. But for you to use for that, and if you ever want to work one-on-one, I will put my link up there to schedule a discovery session. Again, that is free. But again, I really appreciate you guys and gals participating in the conversation. I hope you all got something out of it, something to think about, something that you guys can ponder while we are during this isolation. And for those, I want to thank that are our essential personnel, medical, truck drivers, grocery store workers that are out there on the front lines every day. I want to give my special thank you to you all. For those who don't know, I also do work with a hospital, so I see all of the things that you have to go through, and I just want to say thank you for keeping us safe, and I love you all. I will see you next week. I will be back, and have a great evening, and again, remember, it's okay to love yourself a little bit more. Good night. Bye-bye.